Oxford University Press has just announced its word of the year for 2024. It's actually two words, and this kind of caught me by surprise. They are brain rot.
Supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as a result of overconsumption of material, now particularly online content, considered to be trivial or unchallenging.
Chat, are we cooked, or should we let Gen Alpha cook? If you think I sound insane, chances are you're not chronically online. And if you aren't, trying to talk to the younger generation might feel like deciphering a whole new language, one so absurd it seems like they're actively dismantling English itself.
Skibbity.
Skibbity. I don't know what skibbity means. What does it mean?
But I don't think that outrage is justified. So in this video, I want to yap about the evolution of the English language, the introduction of brain rot, its effects on literacy levels, and whether Gen Alpha is truly killing communication or just reshaping it. English has never been this pure, polished thing. It's more like a giant collage made from bits of history. It started with invasions. The Anglo-Saxons gave us the base, words like house, friend, knight, and then the Normans invaded in 1066 and dumped in a ton of French, which is why we have both kingly, which is Old English, and royal, which is French, or ask and demand. Then, during the Renaissance, guys like Shakespeare started playing with the language. He literally made up words like bedroom, swagger, lonely, and addiction. A lot of the poetic, emotional side of English, what gives it depth, comes from this era. Fast forward to global trade and colonization, and English started picking up words from all over the world. From Hindi, we got shampoo and pajamas. From Arabic, sugar and alcohol. Even booze might come from Dutch. And zombie? That comes from West African and Haitian Creole roots. All of this shaped how we use English today, which is why there's 5 different ways to say the exact same thing, why it's full of contradictions, and why it's so easy to remix. The language didn't just evolve, it absorbed everything around it. But arguably, the biggest shift in how English evolved didn't come from Shakespeare or colonial trade, it came from where we are right now, the internet. Once the internet went mainstream in the early 2000s, it started creating its own dialect. Forums, chat rooms, and gaming servers gave rise to a new kind of slang, one built for speed, anonymity, and inside jokes. You had acronyms sprout up like LOL, BRB, OMG, and ROFL, which are shortcuts that still carried clear meaning. And as long as you knew what they stood for, you knew exactly what someone was trying to say. Keep that in mind because it's going to be relevant later in the video. Emoticons like the smiley face with a nose or XD replaced full sentences. Even misspellings like teh or pwned became part of the culture, not as errors, but as part of the humor. A lot of it came from typing fast or wanting to seem casual without trying too hard. It wasn't about proper grammar, it was about sounding like you were part of the internet itself. Whether that meant RuneScape, AIM, or 4chan, how you spoke was just as important as what you said. The earlier internet slang when I was growing up on the internet from like 2005 to 2012 had this nerdy, ironic, hyper-specific energy to it. Stuff like noob, lay epic fail, you mad bro, and trollololol came from meme culture, gaming forums, or broken translations. And for a zillennial like me, few words hit harder than the all-time classic, derp. Derp, 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 derp. These terms didn't spread because they were poetic, they spread because they were funny, recognizable, and made you feel like you were in on a secret joke. And here's the thing, the internet didn't just create a new way to talk, it changed who gets to shape language. According to a study on the impact of social media on language evolution, platforms like TikTok, Reddit, and Twitter have democratized language change. Instead of trends coming from dictionaries or institutions, they're now being driven by users. Anyone with a phone and a good joke can influence how millions of people speak.
I think we have to accept the fact that Kai Cenat is the modern day Shakespeare. I mean, think about it. He's not only producing entertainment for the masses like Shakespeare was, but he's responsible for coining and popularizing so many new words like riz, gyat, huz, and phantom tax. But more importantly, there are millions of people out there referencing those words by interweaving them into their daily conversations.
The study points out that this has also led to the rise of microlanguages, tight-knit online communities with their own slang, emojis, and memes, constantly adding new layers to how we communicate. Think of things like the terms mewing and mogging first being coined within niche incel communities, then going mainstream through memes. Or phantom tax, which started as an inside joke from Kai Cenat's fanbase and is now understood across Gen Alpha meme pages. And this shift has been tracked over time. Another massive analysis of 300 million social media comments found that digital communication is consistently getting shorter and less complex, with messages becoming more emotionally charged and more meme-like. The algorithm rewards language that grabs attention fast, and we've adapted to that. So yeah, the internet created a space where language didn't have to follow rules, it just had to hit. To make someone laugh, feel something, or share it. And in a weird way, it's not that far off from what Shakespeare was doing, twisting words, breaking structure, and reshaping English to fit the moment. Social media just took that rebellious creativity and gave it to everyone. I think we all know that getting sucked into brain rot content can come with a lot of negative consequences. At this point, your phone feels like a necessary body part that is wreaking havoc on your mental health. If you're struggling with social media addiction and you want to put some healthy boundaries between you and brain rot, then getting the help of a coach on today's sponsor, Strawberry.me, might be the move. Coaches on Strawberry.me are vetted and assessed for their coaching qualifications and expertise and undergo rigorous ongoing evaluations. All you gotta do is take a short quiz on their site to get matched with a coach that's tailored to your needs. And their approach differs from the traditional therapy approach. Instead of just getting you to open up and talk about your feelings like traditional therapy usually gets you to do, their approach is much more collaborative and action-based, like guiding you through a series of goals that you can actually apply. I hopped on a call with one of the coaches, Dean, and I was impressed at how he was able to ask questions that really got into the root of my problems and empowered me to create the plan to fix them myself. And like I've said in previous videos, good coaches don't just feed you the answers, they give you the tools you need to find your own answers. If you feel stuck in your old destructive vices, then Strawberry.me's personal coaching will allow you to break free from these and unlock your full potential. So if you're interested, you can go to the first link in my description to get a $50 credit and start coaching today. Now, by the time Vine and eventually TikTok rolled in, that same rule-breaking energy didn't just continue, it exploded. Language didn't just adapt to the internet anymore, it adapted to our increasingly fragmented attention. On Vine, you had 6 seconds to land a joke. On TikTok, if you don't grab someone in the first few seconds, they're already gone. So the language evolved again to be faster, weirder, and more extreme. Full sentences got replaced by one-word reactions. Mood, same, slay, vibe, dead. Entire emotions collapsed into a single emoji. And when the perfect word didn't exist, sometimes people repurposed one or coined a new one altogether. Delulu, Riz, Gyat, and Skibbity didn't come out of thin air, but they did get reshaped by internet culture into something way bigger than their original meaning. And it's not always just random noise. These words often condense complex feelings or social cues into something instantly recognizable. Delulu isn't just delusional, it's a specific kind of ironic self-delusion, like knowing your crush will never notice you but choosing to believe it anyway. Riz isn't just charisma, it's effortless social confidence with meme potential baked in. This is where we start seeing what people now call brain rot language. Not because it's stupid, but because it feels hyper-processed, like it came from the inside of someone's overstimulated, terminally online brain. The kind of language that hits your dopamine receptors before your logical brain can even catch up. Along with that, brain rot slang is also a reflection of the broader youth culture as a whole. I've talked about this in my Gen Z meaning crisis video, but this post-ironic humor that is so absurd and incoherent that the incoherence itself is what makes it funny, is a symptom of a postmodern culture that's increasingly detached from any stable sense of reality or meaning. Postmodernism pushes back on the idea that there's one universal truth or reality we can all agree on. Instead, it argues that truth is often shaped by language, culture, and power. What we call truth is usually just a dominant perspective. In that sense, everything is constructed and, in a cultural sense, often remixed. In that world, irony kind of becomes a coping mechanism, because if nothing matters, you might as well laugh at the mess. So Gen Z and Gen Alpha make jokes that are intentionally cringe, speak in memes, and say things like Skibbity Ohio Rizzler Gyat, not because it means something, but because not making sense is the point. And that brings us to John Baudrillard, a postmodern philosopher I've brought up in other videos who predicted this kind of cultural breakdown decades ago. One of his most famous ideas is hyperreality, which is the idea that in a media-saturated world, we stop being able to distinguish reality from simulation. We start interacting more with representations of things than the things themselves. In other words, the simulation becomes more real than reality. And if that sounds like TikTok to you, well, you're not wrong. When a Gen Alpha kid talks like an AI-generated meme or spams catchphrases from a toilet-headed animated YouTube series, it's not just internet culture, it's hyper-reality in action. Language becomes a loop of references referencing other references, detached from any original meaning. It's not about communication anymore, it's about vibe, it's about keeping up with whatever absurd trend is dominating the algorithm this week. I'm pretty sure I just saw something within the Gen Alpha crowd of things being Dennis as a way to describe something. So this isn't just slang, it's not even humor, it's a philosophical response to chaos, overstimulation, and a world where the lines between real and fake have completely blurred. What we're seeing isn't random, it's the result of language evolving to fit the way we now experience the world, fast, fragmented, and visual. And Gen Alpha didn't just invent brainrot, they're the first generation to grow up natively fluent in a language shaped by the algorithm. If you want to hear the undisputed king talk about algorithmic language evolution and how it forms, Etymology Nerd on TikTok and Instagram has some incredible videos on this subject. So if this kind of slang is everywhere now, especially online, it naturally raises a bigger question. What is it doing to our literacy? Like, is all this meme speak and broken grammar actually making people worse at reading or writing, or is it just another stage in the evolution of language? Well, the answer isn't black or white, it's nuanced, but there are some patterns worth paying attention to. For starters, there's evidence that internet slang is making its way into formal writing, especially among younger students. A 2023 study on third-year computer science students in the Philippines found that while their overall writing performance stayed relatively consistent across areas like grammar, coherence, and content, there was a noticeable pattern of internet slang appearing in their essays, reflecting their day-to-day communication habits. The study notes that, quote, some of the internet slangs they usually use in social media were also noticed in their outputs, and that social media habits had a negative correlation with vocabulary performance, suggesting students were more likely to use informal or inappropriate words in formal contexts. But here's where it gets more nuanced. It's not just about internet slang ruining literacy, it's also about how we're teaching people to navigate digital spaces in the first place. A 2025 meta-analysis published in Humanities and Social Sciences Communications looked at 35 independent studies with over 48,000 students, and they found a significant medium positive correlation between digital literacy and academic achievement. In other words, students who are better at using and understanding digital tools tend to do better in school, but what matters is how we teach and define digital literacy. The study found that students who had what it called comprehensive literacy, which combines technical skills with critical thinking and social awareness, performed better than those who only learned basic tech operation. As the authors put it, digital literacy should not be limited to the education of digital operation skills, but should also strengthen students' ability to solve problems with digital technology and improve their self-regulation. So it's not the internet that's the problem, it's how we prepare students to engage with it. If you only teach kids how to click buttons, they won't necessarily learn how to think critically or express themselves clearly online. But if you teach them how to use digital tools with intention, awareness, and adaptability, those skills can actually support, not hurt, their formal education. And it's not just about doing well in class. Another study from the Journal of Educational Computing Research pointed out that students with stronger digital skills were also more prepared for the modern workforce. They wrote, individuals with digital skills tend to perform better and are more productive than those who lack digital skills. So basically, knowing how to communicate online, switching between casual and formal tone, and adapting to different audiences and platforms is becoming just as important as knowing how to write a 5-paragraph essay. So what does that mean for slang? It means the problem isn't that kids are saying Riz or Delulu or spamming emojis. The real issue happens when they haven't been taught how to shift, how to go from TikTok comments to cover letters, from meme captions to essays. And that's not really on them, it's on the systems around them. This is why it matters to treat language as contextual, not just correct or incorrect. The way we talk with friends isn't the way we talk to professors or coworkers. Both can coexist, but only if we're taught that there's a difference and why it matters. If they're taught that, the internet becomes a tool. If they aren't, the internet becomes a barrier. So after all this, are we watching the slow death of the English language? Is Gen Alpha's slang the final boss of linguistic decay? Honestly, probably not. The idea that language is falling apart has been around forever. People said it when Shakespeare started making up words, they said it when jazz musicians in the 1920s started slang like cat and hip, and they said it when texting introduced LOL and BRB. Every generation thinks the next is ruining language, mostly because it's changing in ways they don't understand. But change isn't the same thing as decay. What we're seeing right now isn't English getting worse, it's English doing what it's always done. Adapting, remixing, reflecting how people actually live and communicate. Yes, some of the slang sounds ridiculous. Yes, there are some valid claims about how digital habits are shaping grammar, reading comprehension, and attention spans. But these things aren't happening in a vacuum. They're happening in a world that's faster, more visual, and more connected than anything that's come before. Because if you know how to move between those spaces, if you know the history behind the words you're using, you're not breaking language, you're mastering it. One thing is for certain though, it's that literacy levels are not looking too hot in America right now. If you want to learn more about that, check out my America's Literacy Crisis video. You'd like it if you like this video. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Goodbye.